Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, my name is Heather Lewis, and today we're going to be filming a sit-down video because if you haven't heard yet, I have braces now. So my teeth have been hurting really bad, which has been keeping me from working in the workshop. So for today's video, we are going to be doing a must-haves if you are starting furniture flipping in 2022. I have selected 10 items that I think are something that you must have, and I thought this would be the perfect time to do it with the start of a new year. With all that being said, let's get straight into it. Little kitty wants to be in the video today, so we'll see how long that lasts. But I wanted to make this video without, pointing out the obvious. You obviously will need primer, you'll need paint, and you'll need some sort of top coat in order to complete a project. But I wanted to point out some of the things that not everybody thinks about that can really help upscale your furniture flips and just all around make it easier for yourself in the process. Is he purring too loud? Shh. I'm trying to make a video. Okay, so first being either a screwdriver, which you have seen me use hundreds of times before. I like this screwdriver because it has several different bits. Just twist the top off and you can switch the bits on what you need. So that's super helpful. Otherwise, if you want a faster way to take off your hardware, you can also use a drill. I didn't use a drill a lot in the beginning just because it was kind of hard to get a grasp on. I do use this sometimes, but I like to use my screwdriver more in videos just because I like to be able to use stuff that I know people have in their homes already. So you can either use one or the two. I mean, you need one to be able to take off the hardware. Sometimes hardware can be really loose if it's older. So if that's the case, you may not need either, but most of the time you will need one or the other. And I recommend having several different bits, whether you are using the screwdriver or the drill, just so that you are covered when it comes to different types of hardware. So next up, since we're talking about hardware already, I thought it would be important to mention that you can actually get new hardware. This is a really great way to actually upscale your piece and your dresser or whatever it is that you are refinishing. This is just a modern style piece of hardware that I have here that I can use on some of my projects. And I know that that is another additional cost that you have to put into your all-in when refinishing a piece, but it also upscales it by almost twice as much as what you paid it for, or at least that's typically how it goes for me. Upscaling your hardware is always a good idea because then more people are going to be able to fit it into their modern style homes. And there are thousands of different types of modern hardware nowadays. You don't just need these bars. There are hundreds of different types that you can get at Lowe's, Home Depot. You can definitely get it at Hobby Lobby, some really cute ones, but I've even found some at like TJ Maxx and Home Goods, places like that where they are at a discounted price. So you can always check them out in those places as well. So now for number 3, I want to talk about drawers and drawer slides. A lot of the times when you are refinishing a piece, you will come across broken drawers and drawer slides, things that don't open and close correctly. Although it can be a huge pain when refinishing, it is something that you will eventually run across if you are doing piece after piece. That is why I think it's important to actually have more drawer slides. Now, these are wooden drawer slides that I pick up at a local wood shop place, and they're kind of costly actually. And I know this isn't the only alternative to fixing drawer slides. If you still have all of the pieces, it's just not working properly. Sometimes you can scrape off the glue and undrill the screws and then just kind of fix it and re-glue and re-screw. Sometimes that does work, and that is always the first thing that you should do instead of putting more money into it. But that's not always the case, and that doesn't always happen to work out that way. And that is when I use these. This one's really small just because I've already cut it and used it for a drawer slide. but usually they come like really big. Like I've almost been able to use it for 2 different drawers on just one piece. So that is really nice. Otherwise, if you don't want to spend more money on these, I know they also have those drawer stoppers. I don't know exactly what they're called because I've never used them myself. But to me, I just feel like this is like completely replacing the drawer slide as if it's brand new, you know? So I like to use these, and I know people really appreciate it when they see a brand new drawer slide in there, other than just the drawer stoppers. If you have like a local wood shop place, you can probably look there. Otherwise, I would just search it up and I'm sure you'd be able to find something very similar to this. Next are these little triangles that I like to put under my furniture. This just helps elevate my piece. So I usually have 4 of them. I have 3 of them here right now, and obviously there's paint on them because I do use them a lot, but this just helps elevate your piece. I also have animals, as most of you probably know, and so even though I don't let them into my workshop, hair can get down on the floor either from my clothes or whatever the case may be. And when you're trying to paint the edges or the trim or the legs, a lot of the time the hair can get stuck into your paintbrush, and then it can get stuck into the wet paint, and whether you see it or not, it may get stuck in there, and that's just a whole nother problem. So I like to use these a lot of the time because it elevates it, it keeps it off the floor so you're not getting paint on your floor either. And I'm pretty sure you can get these from Amazon. I got mine at Lowe's, but I'll try to link it down below if I can find a link to it, because you definitely want to have these in your stockpile of refinishing tools and items. Next up is a pretty obvious one. When it comes to furniture painting and refinishing, you're gonna need paintbrushes. I have 2 different kinds of paintbrushes right here. Here I have a just kind of a mini regular paintbrush that you can get at Lowe's. This is where I get mine. This is a 2-inch handle, I believe. I mean, these aren't brand new. I've used them before. It's actually wet and drying, but you can reuse your paintbrushes several times over as long as you're taking the proper steps to clean your brushes after each use. I know a lot of people don't like cleaning their brushes, but it can really add to an expense if you have to buy like this $6 to $8 brush every time that you're refinishing everything. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but it's just more money that you're losing out. So I know some ways that people keep their brushes from drying out in between coats is putting them in a bag. That is what I do, just to keep the air from getting to it so it won't dry out. Otherwise, a lot of people also put them, kind of wrap them in like tinfoil and put them in their freezer, and I know that really helps keeping them from drying out as well. But just making sure that you are cleaning your brushes thoroughly after each use with them. But anyways, this is one that I use. You see me using them a lot in my videos. Otherwise, I also really like the zebra brushes. Here is one of mine. This is actually the circular brush. This is really good for getting in, you know, places that are curved and that aren't as easy to get with these square or more, you know, regular brushes. So these are really nice. They're really soft as well. I know this one looks a lot nicer. This one is a pretty new one, so it seems to be holding up just fine, but it does look nicer and it's softer and it's able to help me with curves and stuff like that. But otherwise, these 2 are really good brushes. You don't have to have name brand like the zebra brush here. Both are good to have in your stockpile. So next, I want to talk about lighting. Although you may not have to buy anything for this, it is really important to have lighting. For one, it's really good for staging when it comes to taking your pictures to actually market and sell and advertise, but also it's really good to have while you're actually refinishing. If you have dim light, I have a lot of yellow light in my house, and it can be very hard to see where you've painted, especially with the lighter colors. And if you're putting on like a second coat, it can be really hard to tell what's dry and what's wet. Having good lighting is just going to help you refinish your piece better, just because you're able to see what you're doing more, and it helps prevent missing more spots. Now, with me being in Minnesota, it starts to get dark at around 4:30 right now because it's winter time. So I actually invested in a really nice ring light. You can get ring lights just about anywhere. You can find them on Amazon. I can link some down below that you might be interested in. But ring lights are really nice. I mean, they're even nice for right here, right now, as I'm trying to talk to you guys. And actually, I'll show you guys the difference of what it's like. So this is currently with the ring light off. You know, there's not much lighting. I could open windows and stuff, but you also have to have the right angles of light in order to make a good video. And I'm not just saying you need a ring light for your video, but it is really good when you're actually painting your piece as well. And with the ring light back on, you can see how much more light it provides and how much nicer it is. And that is why I like to use my ring light when I'm talking to you guys, painting a piece, or recording any furniture flips. Next, let's talk about sandpaper. So when I first started refinishing pieces, I didn't even sand my pieces down. I just thought it was prime paint and seal, you know, top coat. And I didn't even think about sanding my pieces down. There's a lot of ways to go about it, but it's really important to do it because that is going to be a key component to allowing your paint to grab onto the piece. If your piece is super glossy, with a simple scratch, it could just scratch away. So sandpaper is really important. I have 80 grit sandpaper here, but you want to have a variety of light to medium to heavy grit sandpaper. It took me a little bit to understand the grits without actually feeling them, but this 80 grit here is very heavy on the grit and sharp, I guess you could say. Those are probably the wrong terms, but can't think of what I'm supposed to be saying here. So basically, the lower that you go down, the higher or the more intense the grit is going to be. So 80 to 60 to 50, I've seen 35 before. Those are going to be your sharper grits. Those are more so used to completely take the finish off. 120 is mostly like a medium grit, and then like and then as you go higher up to 220, that is going to be your softer grits, which is mostly used for scuff sanding and the adhering process, where you just want to allow your paint to stick onto your piece, because if you have little scratches in there, it's not as glossy, you can't even see them, but it just helps with keeping your paint on. This is just this type of sandpaper that actually sticks to my sander. I have a square palm sander, and so this is what I use, but I also use this for hand sanding too. You don't need to have a big expensive sander. You can hand sand. That's what I have been doing in the winter, just because it is knocking up less dust, because I am refinishing my pieces inside, just because I don't have a garage or anything like that. But you can use this. They also have big sheets of sandpaper that you can use, which is more cost effective, I believe, because you can just kind of rip off what you need if you are hand sanding. But otherwise, if you're using some type of sander, these are really nice. And they also have the circle ones that you can use if you have a circular sander. So a lot of options for sanding, but you definitely need to have this in your stockpile of tools and items to use while refinishing, because sanding is an absolute must. Next, I have this green plant that I actually got at Target. It wasn't too expensive, but this is resembling just the whole staging process. I have never been very good at staging myself, but for 2022, one of my goals is to really work on my staging. And I know having greenery in your staging is really good to have, and it really brightens up the picture and makes it look more alive and earthy, and just upscales your pictures when you're staging. Now, it doesn't have to be a plant, but I also have clocks, I have lamps, I have picture frames that I can even use. I do find that I get a lot more messages about my pieces when I am staging them, and a lot of other people have said that they like to look at that picture and be able to imagine it inside their homes. That is what you're trying to do while you're staging, whether it's putting blankets around them, or whatever, because if they're able to visualize what it would look like in their space, they're more likely to take it. Next, I want to talk about these disposable foam rollers. I don't think a lot of people really know about these, but when you are rolling on primer, you can get these little kits where it has the tin, the handle part, and then 1 or 2 rollers. But having to toss those away after just 1 or 2 uses can be really costly. So I like to grab these disposable foam rollers. It comes in a pack of 10, and that way I can still use the tin. I just put aluminum foil over it, and I can still use the handle, and then I can use each one of these 2 or maybe even 3 times depending on how well I upkeep them, because I really only use these for primer, so I'm not having to wash them out or anything. But these are really nice to have so that you aren't spending money on those kits time after time after time again. Just place aluminum foil down on the tin and toss that away when you're done. It also helps with easy cleanup, and then use these. And then last, I want to talk about spray painting hardware. If you're able to afford it, it is nice to put on brand new hardware, but it can be very costly, as I mentioned before. So spray painting your hardware can be a great alternative. Spray painting it to gold is one of my favorite things to do, and I have noticed that it really upscales the piece overall, depending on what kind of color you're doing. I like to do white and gold. I like to do even black and gold. But when you are spray painting, a lot of people just kind of spray paint their pieces and they call it good. They say done, that it's done at that point. But just like with refinishing a piece, you always seal the paint in, correct? So you want to make sure that you are sealing in the spray paint with your hardware as well, and that is what this is for. This is your this is a clear matte enamel that you can actually put onto the hardware, so that it's just that extra layer of protection, so the spray paint isn't just scraping off or rubbing off, and it'll upkeep it a lot longer and keep that spray paint from actually rubbing off. This is really nice to have. I know a lot of people just kind of skip this step, but it is really important to have this. That spray paint on that hardware is not going to kind of diminish and rub off. And that way you know your project is done, completed, and it's gonna be looking nice, and your customer is going to be happy for a long, long time. So I would definitely recommend picking some of this up. This is the Rust-Oleum brand, if you don't have it already. Otherwise, that is going to end today's video, you guys. I thought that it would be fun to add some of these items into future wants and needs for your own furniture flips. I definitely didn't have all of these right away when I first started, but as I learned more, I figured out some of these things that are really nice to be using and can only upscale and add more value to your pieces at the end of the day. I'd love to hear if you guys are using some of these products already, and comment down below which ones you are using, which ones you're not using, which ones you have just figured out today in this video. Otherwise, give this video a thumbs up so that I know that you guys like this video and so that I can do more in the future. So thanks for sitting down with me, you guys. My teeth have been hurting so much, so I like that I'm just able to sit down and talk with you guys. But otherwise, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.